Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up? What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, January 2nd, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, man? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. And boy, the sun came out for the first time in like 3 days, right as we were going on the air there. So it's like, whoa, I'm brighted out right now. I've been used to just no sun for 3 or 4 days. So yeah, Happy New Year to you and everybody watching today. And we've got a really good show with really good races. How nice is that to say?
I mean, new year, new
Yeah.
new pod, new everything, right? You know, we've got good racing. We got, although I will say here it is not sunny, so I don't know what. You must have a little break in the clouds there because honestly, it feels like it's getting dark here every day at like 3 o'clock. I mean, because the sun never does come out or that for like a week straight. It felt like it was just like a steady like mist rain kind of thing. Like it just is so shitty here.
Yeah, it's been bad.
I mean, at least it could. I think it might snow. I think I heard on Sunday, but at least it's like if the weather's shitty like that, it's like at least you could do is snow or something. Just because I'm sick of not, it's like, and then with racing happening, and we got big racing happening, starting to happen. It's like, all right, I'm over it. Let's just get to spring.
Yeah, it's great to see the good racing coming back, right? I mean, this time of year is when the Derby really kind of starts as far as the Derby Trail. And just to have that back is great. I mean, we got 4 races to talk about. We could see good horses out of, well, at least 3 of the 4 probably. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and it's they're I guess happy birthday, right, to all the horses, right?
Yep.
Now they're 3. So we officially have 3-year-olds to talk about, not the almost 3. So again, and this weekend it's mild-ish. I mean, you have 2 official Derby preps, but well, you've got a nice race at the San Vicente, which isn't a technical Derby prep, but it is a Derby prep, make no mistake. So it's just really across the board, good racing. But I wanted to, before we got into it, one just kind of like between we were off. We had the Derby or the fantasy draft, and then we were off for Christmas, and now we're back. So it's been 2 or 3 weeks really since we've kind of talked about Derby stuff and really kind of anything that's new for you that's kind of happened since we've last kind of talked. That's as far as like, hey, that horse, I mean, I think Gaming is a clear candidate to be like, well, that horse may not be as good as we thought or at least hoped he was. But is there any other horses that you're kind of or anything that's happened, I guess is a better way to say it, that it's got your attention?
Yeah, during the break where we haven't been on the air, they ran the Gun Runner, and that was won by Built, and that was a pretty good performance by him. So you kind of got to give him a little bit of credit. In a field of just 5, but Built looked very good. San Saba versus Matticat Road, that was something that happened while we were gone, and Matticat Road was able to get the job done there. San Saba, a pretty, let's just call it like a lackluster third is how I would describe it. It's not very good. He might get better second start, but not good. And then that's been about it. It's been pretty quiet, minus those kind of things. There's been some maidens here or there, but nothing to get overly excited about. So not a whole lot has changed, really. Just kind of waiting for a weekend like what's coming up to where now it's like we have maybe not even like new horses to talk about, but just kind of reaffirming, hey, this horse is good. Maybe this one's not, and so on like that.
Yeah, it's that the Gaming one was, I mean, that because you were on the fence right before the draft about what to do with him, and that made your decision pretty easy in terms of that goes as far as the first round pick. But I mean, that was an interesting play, and I think it's that time of the year where you start to see that with the Baffords, where it's like we all, it's like the draft. We had like how many Baffert? I mean, you probably know how many Baffert horses went off the board or on the board, I should say, in the draft, and it's like, how many of those are serious, So it's like we're going to find out here, and really it starts as soon as Saturday of how serious these kind of horses are, and that's when you like Gaming's like, okay, that horse seems like he might, and make no mistake, he might show up again in 2 months and make another run on the Derby Trail. Who knows? I mean, he does have points with the second place finish in the juvenile, but it is that time where you start to figure out which horses of his in particular, and really all of them, but him in particular, are for real and not.
Yeah, I think the two things I kind of told myself going into this Derby trail is don't believe the hype anymore. Like I feel like I've gotten caught up in the hype of what people have said is going to be, a great horse versus what you see on paper. And you're like, I don't see it. Like San Saba obviously would be one where it's like, I just don't. I know people are saying this horse is the second coming. I personally just don't see it. There's nothing in the pedigree. There's not, the workouts are okay, but they're nothing special. Like I don't see it. And so I went against him, where in past years I may have bought into that. And then to the second part of what you're talking about, don't overreact to one race. And that's with gaming. It's like, I've loved gaming ever since he debuted. I'm not going to jump off of him just because of what happened once. If it happens again, if it's a pattern, sure. But it was a 5-horse field at Los Al. I mean, weird things could happen. I'm not totally off of him. I was off of him enough not to want him in the top, 5 or 6 horses in our fantasy draft. But if he shows up in the right field and everything's good and he says he's been working good and all that stuff, I'm not done with him. I think when they're this age, the worst thing you can do is get emotionally attached to them or just, get upset with the horses like this. They're young. They're trying to figure things out. They're going to have little problems here and there. And if fierceness taught us anything, it's you just kind of got to stick with them. If you think they've got talent, stick with them basically.
Well, and just like fierceness and he kept throwing them in there in the biggest races, right? And just like Baffert, especially when you have horses like the Barnes that Baffert has, or Brad Cox has, or Pletcher, or Chad Brown, whoever. Like when it comes to the Derby trail, especially, Baffert's not going to just throw them in. It's like if gaming's not, he doesn't think is good enough or healthy enough or whatever to do it. Well, he's got 14 others that he can kind of place in there, right? And so if the next start is in a month or whatever, in the graded stakes Derby prep at Santa Anita, well, it's like, well, I guess all things are good.
Yeah, that's just it. Like I said, he just kind of puts them in where he's got that deep roster of horses. This one's not ready. Okay, get this one. And so, yeah, I mean, and again, you made a good point there. At the end of the day, Baffert wasn't just going to keep throwing fierceness in races where he didn't think he could win. He obviously believed in him. So if they've shown it, if they've looked good in the past, don't get off of them after one. Now, obviously, it's hard to stomach what gaming did because it was so bad. But like I said, it's a race in December at Los Alamitos. I'm not going to get overly concerned about it.
Well, that, and he's got, you got, what did he get, like 20 points or something for?
Yeah, I think I can't remember what he's got. He's up there where I don't know, he's in the top 5 right now.
Well, yeah, he's basically in the point where it's like just one top 3 finish in a like a 50-point race, say he's in, right? Mm-hmm. So, so yeah, we have a lot to obviously figure out with these horses. I wanted to really as well mention, as we are in January now, and we're a few weeks out to the Pegasus, so this is one of our opportunities to kind of mention that some of the horses that are aiming towards the Pegasus World Cup, I'll run through the latest probables as you kind of touch on any that you are interested in. But White Barrio and Mystic Dan, obviously, maybe one of the, we've had a lot of bad Derby winners lately. That's right, that's up there. Stronghold, Skippy, Senior Buscador, Mixed 2, Croupy, JB Strikes Back, Stoddy Crown, Locked. I'm just going through the list. Rattle and Roll, Imagination, Newgate, Power Squeeze, Red Route 1, Skinner, Rocket Can, Tumbarumba, Still, Sunshine, and Cook Creek. It's a very long list of possibles / probables, but White Barrio does seem to be the quote unquote the horse, I guess, that is aiming for that race. But overall, man, like, it kind of shows you what we're working with some of these older horses.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad of a race if some of they're going to need to get a lot of the bigger names off that list. I don't think it'd be too bad. Right now I will probably pick Locked to win the Pegasus, and that's not it's January 2nd as we're doing this, so a lot could change between now and then. But I think you kind of, that race, it seems like most years you kind of want more of an up and coming. Well, that's not really true either. It kind of goes half and half, but a lot, you've seen up and coming horses like Locked step up and win that race in the past. And so that's kind of what what I'm looking at this year, because the establishment, like a White Barrio, I'm not overly excited about him. But I think it's going to be a good race. It's kind of just really been hurt by the Saudi Cup. Dubai World Cup really never hurt it because it was further enough behind the Dubai World Cup that they could kind of run them both if they wanted to.
Yeah.
With Saudi being in February, it really has hurt that race a lot. And when they created the Pegasus, the Saudi Cup wasn't a thing, right? And so you just you hope to get the best field that you could get, and you hope you get a couple that just don't want to go over there and want to stay here.
Well, a lot of times you had pretty top end, Pegasus, and then there's obviously a big purse, and so you would have the big ones come in and say, "Hey, well, it's $10 million race or whatever." Like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, we'll run in this as a prep to Dubai,
yeah,
versus running in some bullshit stakes race, and so that's what was happening. Whereas, like you said, then Saudi jumps in the middle there, and it's like, well, now you have, at best you got to choose two of them, and one of them keeps going down in value, and the other two are going up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's makes it kind of easy in a lot of ways.
Yep. Yeah.
It really is turning into a race that's like, okay, it's like it's almost like, this is a kind of sort of a bad example, but Dubai World Cup is grade 1, grade 2 is a Saudi, and grade 3 is is the Pegasus. And it's like almost like if you have a horse that you don't think is quite good enough to make it over there, then you run them in the Pegasus. If the Saudi crown, it's like, hey, maybe I can go still one here at Saudi, and then Dubai is like that's the race, right?
Yeah, I think that's
it's not the greatest example, but what I'm saying.
Probably not a perfect way to put it, but as in terms of massive races, how they kind of fall in the pecking order, I'd say that's right. Yeah. And it sucks because when they created the Pegasus, that's not what the Pegasus is supposed to be, the event before Dubai, and now it's just like it's just timing and one horse kind of fits into it versus, hey, I'm a champion horse and I'm going here no matter what type of thing.
Yeah. Curtis says you can sit in the Pegasus for as low as $500. Yeah, I remember when we first started and we went to that. It was quite the event, and it was exciting, and like, what was the first year? Like 20 million? No, was it 20? No, it's like
I don't remember. At 16, I think, or 12 maybe.
It was crazy, and then it went up one more, and then I think it just went back after that, but. It has never lived up to what they, and even the matchups, like when we had the Arrogant versus Chrome, or was it Arrogant and Chrome or Arrogant?
Yep.
That was it, right? And Chrome obviously just, wasn't having it. So that made, it's like, so when you had a couple of those matchups that you're excited about, it didn't quite live up to what you hoped.
Well, and look, I still think this is a pretty darn good day of racing. I'm not going to sit here and say anything negative about it, because what they tried to do was create a major day of racing in January when nothing's going on, and they did it. And from a business standpoint for them and a business standpoint for us and horse racing and the excitement for horse racing, it's a massive success. But as far as trying to make it a race on the world stage that is of vital importance, they did it for about 3 years, and then Saudi came and that replaced it. But as far as what they did for American racing, I think it's fantastic. And the numbers prove it. And, past that, it is what it is. But it's a big day on our calendar, and one that was really needed, in my opinion, in January. So,
well, yeah, I mean,
that's a good thing.
It's turned a lot of, regardless of the caliber of racing, it's turned a ton of, handle, on that day. And obviously Gulfstream has no problem producing handle, but that day especially, they turn it, man. So it's like you said, it's not a lot going on in terms of racing. The Derby preps aren't quite, it's kind of always say like it's like Pegasus. I mean, not to say that we aren't concerned about Derby preps now, but like Pegasus, and then once Pegasus is over, it's like, okay, the Derby preps are legit happening, like these are very important Derby preps from here on out. So mattress back. I remember Those
Well,
were the
and yeah,
days.
the first purse you did have to you bought into the race, and it worked until they knew again. I really think the Pegasus would be just as the same as it was when it started, but when Saudi gives away $20 million, you're screwed. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no other way to put it, And so it became more of just a major grade one, and that's kind of it. And I really think they did do another thing that was really nice is they added more races. They have the turf, and they have the filly and mare turf, and so it kind of takes away from it's just one Pegasus. Remember the first 2 or 3 times it's like here's one Pegasus race, the Pegasus World Cup, and then it's just like here's a $50,000 stakes we're running on this day.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Here's a claiming race. Where now it's not the Breeders' Cup, but there's a lot of big races. So, I do think adding that, even though that the World Cup itself is not what it was, the day of racing is still really, really good because of those other things.
Yeah, I mean, we said that from the start. It was like,
Yeah.
why are we not running? And like for like, was it the Holy Bull?
Yeah.
It's like the week later, a week before, or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
why are we not running the Holy Bull on the undercard of this, or right? Running other graded stakes. And then it started to, but it's like, oh, this is the graded stakes, but it's kind of a bullshit allowance race. But it is starting to get a little bit of depth in terms of the grade, grade ones and on the undercard a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I remember the first one we went to, we were just kind of looking at each other like, this is not, they didn't do this quite right with the undercard. But yeah, now, heck, I can't complain. I'm with you on it. And look, eat low-hanging fruit, right? We've been there. It's a lot of fun. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I've had more fun at Gulfstream than at almost any other track. So, I mean, make fun of it all you want. They try things. Some things are dumb. Some things are a ripoff, but there's a lot more places you can make fun of than Gulfstream. I think Gulfstream does a pretty good job, in all honesty.
I've never had a bad time at Gulfstream.
No, never. And
I know that.
Anybody I ever talked to that actually been there really loves it. So, I don't know past that.
It's really never been insane, I mean, yeah, the one was like 1 or 2 years where it was like, okay, this is why they don't have a Breeders' Cup here, because it's just not built for that,
Yeah.
But mostly you go and it's like, oh, this is like so chill,
Yeah, it's great. It's probably my, second, third favorite track.
Yeah, and people don't really, maybe they do, but I don't feel like when I first went, you didn't realize. I mean, yeah, it's not like Del Mar, where it's like you can literally see the ocean, but it's, you can feel the ocean air. Let's just say you can walk. I mean, I think you drunkenly walked to the near the ocean one time after the, it's close enough to the ocean where it's like it has that vibe, especially in the middle of January for us. So when you leave here and go there, it's like, okay, this works. So yeah, episode 700, guys. Episode 700. That's insane. It feels like 700 too. So I haven't ran this by you, which we're just gonna throw this out there. But I was gonna say, to celebrate 700, if anybody listens to this, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give out $700 from us, but not to 7 different people. Basically, meaning if someone contacts us on the site, just email us at contact@racingdudes.com, and you can get $100 off, like a subscription. Not like one that's $70. Obviously, we're not giving you $30, but if you want a subscription, I'll make a promo code for 7 different people that is up to $100. How about that?
Oh, I like that. Okay,
$700. I'll literally give out $700 for episode 700.
That sounds good. I really like it. Yeah,
man, didn't even run that by you either, so we'll see.
No, that's all right. That's how we roll.
Yeah, it's like, hey, by the way, I'm giving out $700. So, but hey, listen, it's been a great run. This is it. It's a lapse. No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys, let's get into today's show. We're gonna preview and give picks for the 200. This is like a little Derby prep podcast. We're gonna give picks for the $250,000 Smarty Jones Stakes and the Jerome Stakes. These are both official prep races for the 2025 Kentucky Derby. But we're also gonna take a look at the $200,000 San Vicente Stakes and the Mucho Macho Man. Both, unofficial Kentucky Derby prep races. Let's go.
Yeah. I was going to comment. We never went to the old Gulfstream, but I've always heard it was massive. Like you could definitely hold the breeder, and they did, obviously.
Yeah. Like what they did it once.
Twice. Did it twice. Yeah.
Yeah, and now you look and you go in this. I mean, it's like in the middle of a outdoor mall, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to walk through all that to get to it, and then you get in there, and it's. I mean, the track's fine, but like the apron and stuff it's grandstands. It's pretty mild, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first time I think the first time you and I got there, we're like, wow, this is. I mean, it was cool. It's really cool, but it's like this is smaller than I expected.
Yeah. Yeah. When you first walk in, it's like feels like a movie set almost. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like the paddock area is just like
The paddock's cool, yeah.
pristine and everything. And then you walk up and you to the apron, like I said, and you look back at the grandstand, and it's like Remington Park's taller than Gulfstream, and there might be more seats, but then you kind of realize, oh, most people are just out here,
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Remington's kind of a good example, really.
It's if you've been to Remington, believe it or not, and people that haven't been to Gulfstream are going to think we're crazy. It's about like that. As far as the size of the place, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
The area is cool. I mean, it's. I feel like I've had more. I know we've had more alcohol there, probably than most places.
Well, it's a very
accessible.
It's a very the atmosphere gets you. I feel like a little bit there. Like it just you want to drink. I don't know. It's just so I can't describe it. It's very relaxing for a racetrack. That's for sure.
Anybody that has not gone needs to go. The Pegasus and the Florida Derby are two of the days that we've gone. We've gone. I feel like have we gone to Fountain Youth? I don't remember.
Feels like we've been there maybe for the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah, I feel like once we did, but those 2 days in particular are always really fun because one, with the Florida Derby, we've seen some big ones come through there, and it's a big prep race, and then obviously with the Pegasus, it's a fun day because it's got big racing, but it's not too high intensity, so it's like you can really have fun, relax at the same time. There's some big racing happening, and so like the Breeders' Cup is great, but you're there and you're like, it's legit. You're serious. It's intense. Every race matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a different vibe.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think this last thing before we do go on, Ron says it'll be interesting to see what the new Belmont looks like. So Belmont was another one. And we've been to the Belmont. Way just massive track, massive grandstand.
Yeah.
Nooks and crannies of that place that probably nobody's been in 30 years, right? And so they're redoing all that now. Wonder what that will look like. That'll be interesting.
I tell you what, it's like it's easy to in our industry to kind of get down and we're like, this sucks, it's like we're just the way we run things and the way we handle it's just such a joke, really. And but then you're like, it's like, how long do we have left, and when's the sport going to die off, and very negative. But then you think about what they're doing out there, and the magnitude of that event center, you want to call it that, but just that whole area is completely invested in Belmont and horse racing, and it goes across the board, really. Some of a few, obviously Churchill Downs is doing nothing but expanding. Saratoga Saratoga, right? They keep expanding as well in terms of like around the outside of it and kind of the facilities, so to speak. But it's just they keep Oaklawn. Look at Oaklawn's done since we've started in the industry. I mean, it doesn't even look the same, and so it's like it's easy to get down, but you see some of the. It's like, well, look at the. I mean, Belmont is case in point right now. I mean, my gosh, the amount of money they've put into that, are putting into it, it's gonna be monstrous.
Yeah, you're right. Where racing is going well, it seems like it's great.
It's very top heavy, I guess.
Yes, and maybe that's probably a good way to describe it.
But if we learned anything from the COVID year or years, I guess, if you want to rattle into 2021 as well, but it was the less the better, really. I mean, when it kind of consolidated into to a few tracks running, it seemed to thrive, and I don't think it's necessarily you don't want to see or hear about tracks closing and people's livelihoods changing, but I almost think a little bit of restriction or constriction in the industry would benefit it, really. But
Probably not a popular comment, but probably would be
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I won't go any further, but yeah.
Yeah, it's too widespread and right now, and it's too, like, where do you bet and how do you bet, but also like, so they're running here and they're running there, and like, so is this all tied to Kentucky? A lot of people are like, is this part of the Kentucky Derby? And so it's like, no, this is so it's just like there's too much, and then you can't control it. You can't, the small tracks are like the Wild West, and it's just I don't know. It just to me it feels like when you have that, and it helps the bettors as well. It's like, hey, like all these horses, like every field is deep, and we only have 5 tracks to worry about today.
Yeah, during COVID, the field sizes were always large as well, and that's always good for bettors.
Yeah. So, but yeah, not a popular comment, and I get
no. I understand that as well. Yeah.
All right, guys, let's take a look here we're gonna go 4 different places here, 4 different tracks, and 4 different races with Derby, implications. We'll start with our home track, and that is Oaklawn Park, race number 9 on Saturday, the Smarty Jones Stakes, 250K, going 1/16 miles for the 3-year-olds, of course, and it is a official Kentucky Derby prep race. 10 points to the winner, 10-5, 3-2-1. Look, this is kind of the first look of some of these horses that were drafted in the fantasy league, and here they're showing up here. And Kale's Angel, who kind of surprised last out to beat the Innovator over, the Lucas horse that Barnes, nearly got beat by the race prior. Kale's Angel is 2-1 here for Peter Miller, and he also got 8-5 on Hot Property. Brad Cox Pratt coming in to ride as well. Cole Battle, an interesting one as well. One at Remington. Not a bad field, really. It's just it's kind of got some question marks of who these horses are. But overall, when I looked at it, I thought, well, you've got horses coming in off of big races, or not, quote unquote big races, good wins, I guess you could say, and kind of figuring out who's who in this race.
Yeah, for the Smarty Jones, I think it was pretty good. The first one of this Oaklawn series and the first race of really any of the series here, as we go to the Triple Crown and the Kentucky Derby, it's always hit and miss. You might get a big horse here or there, but usually you kind of get a field like this where there's a horse or two that might be really good, but it's a lot of proving more so than established form. When you first open the past performances, you go, wow, Flavian Pratt's here. Well, that's a significant, because it is a time of year where he could kind of be anywhere on a Saturday. He doesn't really have a home this time of year that he stays in very long anyway. So him being here is significant. It tells us that they this Brad Cox horse might be pretty decent. Cole Battle coming back after winning out at Remington in the Springboard Mile. We'll see kind of what he can do. Was that a horrible field, kind of like we speculate it was, or maybe he's decent. And then Kale's Angel, and I think he's a super interesting horse. One you kind of mentioned, beat Innovator, and I think it's important to point out, Innovator did come back just last week and won a maiden special weight at Oaklawn Park. So Innovator has come back to win after Kale's Angel defeated him. And Kale's Angel beat him by almost 6 lengths. It was a runaway victory for him in that one. So I'm most interested in Kale's Angel in this spot.
That's interesting. Yeah. Were you surprised? I mean, I think you had been a little bit. I mean, we talked about how like Innovator coming back off of that short is crazy, but it's like, well, I mean, it's not exactly insane because we've seen Lucas do it before. Were you surprised, of how good Kale's Angel looked in that race?
Yeah, when you handicapped that, it looked like Innovator was a little bit better than Kale's Angel. But if somebody was going to beat Innovator, it would have been Kale's Angel. But you never would have guessed by that much. And The reason why I say I'm interested in him in this race is the simple fact of just how easy he did it, how much he just crushed that horse. Now, again, the Innovator race, it was a one-turn race where we have a 2-turn race here today. So that's a major question mark as far as will he be able to handle that or not. But again, I just liked how easily he did things, how sharp he looked in that race. And I just kind of feel like that was a little bit of a coming out party. And that was his first race on the dirt. He had been on the turf out in Southern California, finally got him on the dirt. And boy, I mean, I don't know. He just kind of seemed to find another gear. I went back and watched some of his turf races, and it's like he wasn't bad, but he didn't really have that extra gear like he found at Oaklawn last out. So again, like, yeah, he's going to be my top pick, Kale's Angel, because I just feel like he's shown more than anybody else so far.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's 2-1 is it sucks really, but I mean, I get why he is, and 8-5 on hot property isn't much better, but he does have both of these horses are coming in off pretty big wins. As far as visually impressive, I will go with hot property. I think you can't disregard the fact that Pratt is come in. I little concerned of how good this horse might. I mean, did beat Seattle Road in that debut, who came back to win. Got a nice number as well. The horse didn't exactly went gate to wire, but man, this cushy lead and really didn't have to do much, much challenging, so to speak, in that race, and then just kind of drew off. But did run that day at a mile 16th. That to me is critical. Mm-hmm. Debuted that long tells you that Brad, this is where this horse, he knew wants this horse to go long, and like you said, the fact that hey, Pratt could be in a lot of places. On Saturday, there's stakes races across the country, and he's riding here at Oaklawn. Yes, it's a big purse. That does definitely play a factor, I think. But I have all the faith in the world as you should in Pratt, giving this horse the best trip. So give me hot property. I think this horse is interesting here.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I had him in second. The first race visually looked pretty good, and he beat a pretty nice horse. Like you said, it came back to win. The numbers, no matter which one you look at, just didn't come back great, and that's a little concerning. But, also it's not in some ways too. First race of his career kind of didn't really get ridden just that hard down the stretch. They knew they had the race, right? It now gets Pratt. So, there's enough signs to say, look, he's pretty good. He's probably a little faster than that first number. And if he's just a little faster, he's right up there with a chance, right? I mean, that's the other thing about it. There's not some kind of world beater. Any horse you take, you're taking a little bit of a chance, whether it be Kale's Angel, Hot Property, Mo Quality, Coal Battle. I mean, all of these, they've got something to prove coming into this race.
Well, that's what's interesting here. We've talked about this, and we always talk about it when it happens, is that the discrepancy in numbers sometimes, and why it pays to kind of review multiple angles, because one product could say this and vice versa. Yeah. Hot Property got it like one of the high buyers in the race. In that last race, got an 84, which I believe is second only to Kale's Angel, who got a 93 that last race in the Advent. But to that point, Kale's Angel hadn't sniffed 93 before that either. I think 74 maybe was the high before that. So what number does that mean? What was that? So this is a big race, and like you said, the same way with Hot Property. What was that number, and kind of how this is a big race for both of those horses to kind of maybe because Kale's Angel is a horse that ran on had been run on the turf, and then it's like, so maybe that's what it needed. That's why they got the jump, but maybe it was a kind of a fluky thing as well. So we'll find out. I always ask this, and I'll ask this for all four of these. Is this it's not typically a race this time of the year for any of these. I won't just pick on Smarty Jones, where it's like, I don't know much that will come from this as far as the, if you want to look at Oaklawn in particular, like the Rebel and the Earth Derby and things like that. But anything that, this Hot Property, is that the one that you're like, this is a really, if this horse continues to kind of evolve, we've only seen one race, that could be a horse.
Yeah, I think one or two of them have a chance. He would be on the list. I think the safest thing out of this race is always say probably not. Not going to be a real star in this race because of just the history of it. But I do think, if Hot Property can get a win here, you're like, well, he's a Derby horse. Kale's Angel, if he could win again and be like, well, he seems like a Derby horse. So there's a couple that I've got my eye on. But, look, do I think a horse that's going to be, 10-1, 15-1 or less in the Derby coming up in a few months out of this race? Probably not. But could there be a starter? Yes, I think so.
All right. I'm going number 6, Hot Property. Halterman's got number 1, Kale's Angel, which every time I see that name reminds me of Kale's Courage. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Let's go to Aqueduct on Saturday as well. Race number 8, the Jerome Stakes, Kentucky Derby, 10-5, 3-2-1 as well. And again, the Jerome, similar to the Smarty Jones, not typically a race that produces a ton, but we are going $150,000 1 mile for 3-year-olds, and it is field of 8 and 2-1 on McAfee. Still do right 5-2, 7-2 on Cyclone State. Everyone else is 8-1 and higher. So it seems to be the main shooters. But look, out of those 3, one's an Iowa bred, one's a Maryland bred, and then McAfee for Dutro. Like, I'm not against taking shots elsewhere.
Yeah, this is a weird one, right? I landed on the number 6 Cyclone State. I don't feel great about it, but I do kind of look at this and go, well, look, the horse has been at this track 3 times. Now, 2 times it was Belmont at the Big A, but it's the same configuration, obviously, same track. 3 times, all at a mile. Second, got beat only a length by a horse that was second in the rims and almost won it. And then 2 really nice victories in a maiden special weight and allowance. All, like I said, at a mile. And you just kind of look at some of these other horses, and it's not a great race. I think we know if Studley do right wins the race, whatever, right? I didn't really want to support him. McAfee, I didn't love really what I saw from that horse either. So, yeah, I kept going back to Cyclone State. I think that horse is pretty decent. Here's the deal. When he's lost races, it's been to pretty good horses. Showcase, the horse you've got on your fantasy team, he beat him on debut. Uncaged was a pretty good horse with a little bit of hype there at Saratoga. And then, like I said, the Aviator guy, well, hell, he damn near won the rims in. So you lost by a length to him. Okay, big deal, right? You won your next 2. I just kind of think process of elimination, I thought he was the one to play here.
Yeah. It's just such a, it's such a Jerome race, right? It's just, you got an Ontario bred, you got a Virginia bred, you got an Iowa bred, and you got a Maryland bred in the race.
Yeah.
And you're picking an Iowa bred. So, and it's just, that doesn't surprise me really. It's just that kind of race. Listen, I kind of went into it like, okay, I really don't want to take 6 through 8 just based off of odds. And so I kind of went with an angle of like, all right, well, if the 8 is so good, and I'm not saying you said that or anything, but the horse is 2-1 and is definitely the main Dutro horse.
Yeah.
Why is ICANN in there as well, the 3 horse? And so give me the stablemate, the 3 ICANN for Dutro, Franco aboard, nice hit percentage with those 2. And look, you picked Cyclone State. Well, Cyclone State beat this horse last out. These 2 are in 1-2, and yeah, I felt like you watch that race, like, okay, Cyclone State is better. But now we're going, get another start. This horse has improved each and every start pretty dramatically, really, the 3 that is. And so if the horse can continue to make that, climb up, I think the pace itself is going to help this horse as well. So if there is some sort of like, these are kind of crappy horses, they're just kind of throwing it down, and then here comes the 3, kind of picks up the pieces. So I'll take the 3 kind of, if that horse can make another step up, I think he is in the mix. I do not like this race at all.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's, he's been killing it right now. Like, he is just on fire. The Dutro barn is, which, say what it is, right? But again, you can only take what you got, and that is, if he's barn is all right hot, then I'm gonna try to take advantage of that with a horse that's 8-1 versus the 2-1 on the 8.
I think if you're going to pick a Dutro, that one makes sense. Gets Franco, and so gets the jockey that I think is the better of the two jockeys that he's got riding his two horses. So, and again, like you said, 8-1. You mentioned it. This is a weird horse. Like debuted at Churchill and did nothing. But look, it's a debut. That happens. I don't hold that against him.
Yeah.
Took the horse up to Horseshoe Indianapolis, tried to run on the turf. It got rained off, put him on the dirt, and dominate. A great effort. I thought ran really well. I've obviously watched the race last time out the allowance where Cyclone State beat him. And I thought your horse, I thought he ran okay. How does he turn the table? Second time going a mile, maybe you see improvement. Maybe Cyclone States ran 3 good ones in a row. He's due to not run so well. So I could see the case of, maybe he can kind of turn the corner a little bit on him. So you look, end of the day, I couldn't go with but I'm going to put him underneath. So I can't, both your picks so far, I didn't pick them, but I can't say that I disagree with them.
Yeah. It's just a matter of like the big thing for me and picking against, like, I think someone needs to try to go with the 6, right? And that's kind of the whole basis from that. The 2 feels like a horse that's going to definitely go. And the 5 as well seems like a horse that might want to go, and the 6, obviously. And so if we can set this up, my thought is like, the 7 has speed. If we can set this up to where it's like, hey, these are a bunch of horses that aren't necessarily overly great, and you get a little bit of pace meltdown, maybe the 3, can pick them up. So it's, it's more than anything though. I don't feel awesome about playing the, I imagine Cyclone State will be 5-2. Still They Do Right will be similar, 2-1. And all those horses are going to be pretty interchangeable, I feel like, with the odds. So
yeah,
I just didn't want to play that.
Were you a little surprised that 8 was the favorite? And do you think the 8 will actually go favorite? I didn't see enough to think that
No.
horse should be the favorite. Yeah.
I actually think the horse is going to float up. I actually think the 6 should be the favorite.
That's what I thought.
I kind of just look at the races and I guess maybe the 7 could be the favorite just based off of the class, I guess. It's a name that people, somewhat know as far as the Derby stuff, has been on that quote unquote Derby trail for a minute now because of running in those stakes races at Saratoga and then in Nashua and the Rimson. I could see that horse going off the favorite for sure, but either the 6 or the 7 over the 8. The horse didn't even win the last out. I thought that was a little surprising, but
and the horse that beat him is in the Smarty Jones, and we didn't even mention the horse Optical. It's 12-1, and I said on the preview, I don't like Optical in the Smarty Jones, so I don't know how I could like the 8 here in this one. So I'm with you on that.
Well, I'd say that they're probably going. I don't. The odds are. The morning line odds probably won't hold up. I would assume. But having said that, that's kind of my point. I think the 2 might float up a little bit. The 6 and 7 probably float down, and so you're going to have pretty much 3 horses there that are going to be somewhat interchangeable based on their odds. And so, it's just if you want to take one of those 3, great. I'm taking a shot against. I will play the 6. As well everywhere because I do think the 6 is the best of those 3. All right. Before we head on, make sure you guys head on over to twinspires.com, and just go over, hit promo code DUDES, DUDES, and get up to 100% sign-up bonus match when you enter that promo code. This next 5 months or so, it's going to be a lead up to the Kentucky Derby, which Twin Spires obviously is a big part of. So make sure you go to twinspires.com, sign up using our promo code DUDES, DUDES, and you will get a sign-up bonus. All right, guys, let's head on to Gulfstream Park now. And again, these 2 here we're going to talk about aren't official Kentucky Derby prep races, and there's no points awarded to these horses. But make no mistake, winners, top 3s of these races are heading to Derby preps next. Race number 10 at Gulfstream Park is the Mucho Macho Man Stakes. It's $165,000, 1 mile for the 3-year-olds, and Field of 9 shows up here. And Guns Loaded, a horse that was pretty highly regarded in the draft this a couple weeks ago, and obviously for good reason. At 5-2, 9-2 on Cool Intentions, 5-1 on McKellen. Macho Music at 8-1, 3-1, and Septarian for Chad Brown. Interesting field. This is always a decent field. I feel like it's always one that you need to watch because there is always one or two. It feels like that do move on that either are a surprise, so to speak, or that horse that's like, okay, that horse is moving on to better things.
For sure. I think this is the race out of the four where it's like we could see a couple of actually like better than just okay horses out of it, or it could just totally flop because these are all the same and they just haven't proven much. But at times they've looked really nice. Guns Loaded, you mentioned Macho Music, McKellen, the 6-horse Septarian. These horses have resumes where it's like, that could be okay. Could be a horse that could be okay. But this is just that huge proving ground where we've got to see it. We've got to see what exactly these horses are. First step for a lot of them here. I thought it was very interesting right off the bat. Luis Saez rode the 1, the 2, and the 3 all in their last races and ends up on the 1. On paper, it's like, I don't know, maybe he should have chose McKellen. I kind of like McKellen, but I got to think Saez kind of has a good idea of who's better out of these 3 and got to choose. And he picked Guns Loaded. And so that's the one I ended up kind of leaning on. But I think the 1, the 2, the 3, they all look pretty good to me.
I'm gonna be so pissed if the 3 wins because that was exactly my thought. Like I actually had the 3 kind of narrowed down. Like that was who I was gonna go with, and I kept falling back to the like, well, Saez, and look, he could have his choice really with any of these 3, and then it's like, well, but on the flip side, okay, well, my consolation is I get IRAD, so it's not like that's a bad quote unquote downgrade if that's what you're using it as. So. I get it. That to me, I was between the 1 and the 3. I kept going back to the 1 though. I thought that last race was pretty visually impressive. I want the 5 or the 3 to win in some regards. Disco Time, a horse that is on our fantasy squad, did beat this horse last out, and so. If we do, if this horse runs well again here, the 3 that is, then it would definitely make me feel good about having Disco Time. But so I really like either one of those. But Guns Loaded to me just seems like a horse that is going to thrive early on in this kind of 3-year-old series at Gulfstream.
Yeah. Guns Loaded. I went back to that maiden as well. I was like, no, that's pretty darn good. And the maiden at Saratoga was pretty good for Guns Loaded as well. He got beat 5 lengths, but he got beat by Dapper Moon, and that horse went on to, not win, but run well against really tough horses. So I had to just kind of keep going back to Guns Loaded. But McKellen last time out, I thought ran a winning type of race, but Disco Time just looked really good. The more you go back and watch that race last time out, maybe you're not overly excited about McKellen, but you think, you know what, this Disco Time might be a pretty good horse. I can't wait to see him again because he did that shit pretty easily, and he's undefeated as well. And look, Brad Cox has like 30 of the horses that look like Disco Time at this point, where it's like, okay, they're to the point where it's like, okay, go prove it. So in a stakes, I'm saying. So anyway, I am with you. I had the 3 on top for a while in this race and ended up flipping back. So I think we saw this pretty similar.
So we're basically just saying that you got to play the 1. If you're playing the 1, you got to play the 3.
There's no way. Yeah, there's no way I would just single the 1. I've got to put the 3 in there. And honestly, this 2-horse Macho Music, I don't think this horse is bad either. I'd be careful to throw him out. I thought that the first 3 horses there listed were pretty good. And then you've got the 5 Cool Intentions who, he's been really good here locally. Now you're really going to have to step up. In the 6, Septarian for Chad Brown, like he hasn't had the horse. The horse was at Charlestown going 4.5, and then Laurel going 6, and now he's with Chad. I'm sure it's a private purchase of some sort. I don't know what that horse will do, but 3-1 seems nutty, coming from those 2 tracks to here, but maybe he's the real deal.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I mean, you want to. I mean, if the horse is like 6-1, you might take a swing, but as one of the favorites, that makes it tough, and it's because it's Chad Brown. I mean, if this horse was coming in and just as who was it? Contreras had him. This horse would be like 15 to 20 to 1, right?
Yes. Yep.
So it's like it's literally just the name, and now you get T-Gaff and you get the whole 9 yards, and so yeah, I mean, makes you like kind of pay attention, but I feel very okay with like, all right, let's see what the 6 can do, and I'm okay with getting beat by him. Let's put it that way.
I would agree with that. Yeah, if the 6 wins the race, he might be a really nice horse.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the idea. He's undefeated. So anytime a horse is undefeated, you think, well, until he gets beat, you think, yeah, he could be really any kind. And then, but Charlestown and Laurel, and now we're at a stakes here at Gulfstream. It just, I don't know, it feels weird to me. And he looked good in both those races. The numbers came back okay, but it wasn't any kind of performance there where he just like ran off the screen,
Yeah. The one thing it's just a lot of speed in this race. Lots of like at least it feels like that on paper. You never know with these horses as they stretch out, and some of them making their first starts as 3-year-olds. I guess all of them are. But you kind of wonder, like, is the one gonna be a little bit pressured to go, and I think the horse wants to go, but my point is, so does the 2, and then so does the 4, and then so does the 7. You know what I mean? And it kind of feels like that being on that one hole, you do have to, whereas the 3 might sit a pretty nice little pocket trip there, and then has that kind of tactical speed. So the 3, that's another aspect for me as well.
We're talking that 3 into the winner.
Oh,
circle.
I know. I'm about ready to change my pick. Can we please just put Luis Saez back on board so I don't have to stress out about it?
Why don't you just pick the 3? We picked different ones, and you picked the one that I wanted, or the second horse I'd had. So just pick the 3. We'll keep it going.
Okay, I'll pick the 3. I mean, I did have that one written down, and then I changed it. Right, that was the last race I did, and I had McKellen on there first, and fine, I'll do it.
I said on the preview for the race, it's like, look, these jockeys, they do make mistakes, right? And you never truly know why a jockey's on it. We can speculate, and it seems clear, but you never truly know. So maybe, he made a mistake, or maybe he didn't have a choice. Who knows?
Well, and there's also like, there's always one, you got like D'Angelo who has both the 3 and the 1, and he's ridden for both, whereas the 1 he's ridden both times, and the 3 was just that last start that we had different, and same with the 2, he'd ridden that horse the last 2, but had someone else before. So the 1's been his horse from jump, and so that could be a little bit of an aspect as well. But really, you had the 1 and 3 out the same barn. You got to think at the very least the 1. You know what I mean? Like, take your pick.
Yeah.
So that's kind of ultimately why I kept going back to the 1 after wanting to pick the 3. But I'm going to disregard that. We're picking the 1 and the 3, and the 2 will win. So
right, exactly right. Yeah.
Because I was like, oh no, that horse can't win, and I don't know. It just feels like that horse is going to speed and fade, the 2 that is. But
yeah,
we'll find out. All right, let's go to the last race here. This is the biggest race of the day in terms of maybe potential that's going to come out of it, and that's race number 5 at Santa Anita. This is a San Vicente Stakes, grade 2, worth $200K, 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds, and almost as automatic as anything in racing is the San Vicente having a Bob Baffert horse in it, and here we are. Make no mistake, we got 2 of them, and we've got number 2 Barnes at 8-5. But hey, guess what? Not the favorite, because Bullard in here at 4-5 for McCarthy is your favorite. So really feels like on paper and visually that's between these 2. So I ask you, Halterman, do you take the Bob Baffert hype horse? And I would say hype loosely because, he proved it a little bit as well, but kind of a weird horse. Or do you take McCarthy, who's somewhat established, greatest stakes winner, against him?
Yeah, boy, I tell you, this is a great race for just 5 horses, isn't it? It's really fun. Look, I lean Barnes in this spot because it's hard to pick against Baffert, number 1, and number 2. Hernandez is on Barnes, and Mike Smith is on Romanes. So, okay, I'm not and that's nothing against Mike Smith. It's just like Hernandez is going to ride Baffert's best, unless Flavian Pratt has a Baffert horse, then you go to Pratt. But anyway, Hernandez here, so Barnes for me. And then it was a simple thing: is okay, can Barnes, beat McKenzie Street? Well, he better, right? Like that. I don't have a lot of fear of him. Can Barnes beat Smooth Cruisin'? That's questionable because he did beat Journalism, and Journalism's the favorite out in Vegas right now. But still, I think Barnes is going to be better than that horse. And so it's Barnes versus Bullard, and it's going to be interesting because Bullard did dominate Matticat Road when he faced him. I think Barnes is a little better, though, so I went Barnes in the spot.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big race for these horses. I don't think one key thing about this is I don't think either of the two, or just for that sake, the 2 or the 5 have to win this race. Like I don't think it's a critical, like, hey, if this horse doesn't win, like, then forget about it. But I do think, especially the 2, Barnes, because of the 5 is, like I said, has won that Greatest Stakes race and kind of does have a little bit more established. The 2 needs to have a good effort. That debut race was, while good, had some kind of funky attributes to it. The way the horse ran down the stretch and kind of had a lot of things go wrong. Some of it self-inflicted, some of it not, but did win going to Churchill, doing that there, obviously coming from out here. And so stays home for this one. And, obviously, $3.2 million horse out of American Pharaoh mare into Mischief. I mean, like, the hype's been there. It's just insane. So kind of has, like, there's more to lose probably for Barnes than there is, to gain, because I do think the horse is hyped up so much.
One last thing why I picked Barnes, because you mentioned it. It was far from flawless, like how he did it, how he won that maiden special weight at Churchill Downs. He kind of got stuck inside for a minute. He kind of got excited. He calmed down. He kind of flip-flop leads in the stretch. Like it wasn't perfect. And he was assigned a 106 time form figure for that race. That's a very good debut race. Bullard, you watch the Bob Hope, and it's like he did everything great, and he got a 105. So when I look at it, I go, if Barnes can kind of clean up some of that greenness for the second start, which naturally should happen, what's he capable of running here versus what Bullard's capable of running here? I think Barnes has a higher ceiling for this race specifically.
Yeah. Do you think, to Christopher's kind of point, do you think that it's like the 2 makes sense, right? Because the horse has gone from a maiden special weight at 5.5 to now 7. It's a stakes race, but still it's 7 furlongs. Do you think, like, as Bullard, has made those steps, went on debut and then went to the Bob Hope and did that, going 7, like, it seemed that to me that would have fit, like, hey, like the San Felipe or some sort of next kind of a 2-turn type stakes race next out. Do you any issue with that?
Where would you take him? Here's the problem in Southern California. When they eliminated the sham, they eliminated a 2-turn race until the Lewis, which is in February. So what are the options you got? If you want to run him right now, what are your options? You either stay home or you ship to Oaklawn for the Smarty Jones. And if you've got one that you're real serious about, you probably want to keep him at home. So I don't think it's more of a as much as a red flag as just where are we going to go with him? And I mean, do you want to ship to Oaklawn for the Smarty Jones? I don't know that you want to do that, right? Like,
no, if you're shipping to Oaklawn, you're shipping there for the Rebel or the Arkansas Derby. So
and maybe the Southwest, but yes, the other 2 for sure. You're not going to go to Aqueduct. You're not going to go to Gulfstream. Tell me where. There's none next week. You're probably not going to go to Fairgrounds the next week for the LeComp. So this is it. Yep. So no, I don't see it's a red flag at all. I think it's the circumstance of they eliminated the sham, and here we are. This is the first prep here now.
So let me ask you this, just as a fantasy owner of Barnes here, and honestly, whenever, because I think we picked 5th, and I didn't we didn't even have him on our consideration, not because we didn't like him, but because I assumed he would be gone when it came to me. You know, we were kind of looking at some other, like East Avenue or some of these horses that were like maybe would fall to us. So when he came like available, it was almost like a draft, football draft situation. It was like, why are they passing on him? Why are they, what's going on? So when he fell to us, it's like, all right, well, we got to take him. But so, would you, if he wins here and does it the right way, are you like, oh shit, like that might be, I mean, you have the you took the number 1 overall pick with the Baffert. Like, you're like, oh, that Barnes horse might be his horse.
It's hard to, it'll depend on exactly how it unfolds, what happens. But if they turn for home and it looks like Barnes and Bullard are both kind of firing him, and Barnes just out kicks him, then yeah, I mean, he's got to be the top 2 or 3 Baffert, one of the top 2 or 3 Baffert horses, doesn't he? I mean,
yeah,
that's the way I look at it. Even if Barnes was to run second here to Bullard, but it's competitive, I wouldn't give up on him or anything like that either, right? People love blowout victories, everything goes flawless, everything's perfect. I really looked at his maiden race and thought, I would have rather he did that versus go out there and win by 12, because he got a lot out of that race. And the whole deal of it is Innovator ran the race. I mean, just a massive race. And if Innovator would have run a race similar to what he had been doing, then Barnes would have won by like 12. They killed the rest of those horses. They weren't even close to him. So that was a situation of 2 horses just running fantastic races, right? So, and then I think people got crazy when Innovator came back and lost the next race. And Magic was, so I'm not picking on Magic, but he was like, see, Barnes, he may not be very good. I said, Magic, it's been 9 days and it's not even the same track. He shipped and ran in 9 days. It's like, of course he didn't run quite as well, So, yeah. And then what happens? Innovator gets normal time off. He's not shipping. He's back. He's at his home track that he's at now, and he wins. Well, I mean, so now all of a sudden Barnes is good again. I don't buy it. I think it's more of just, he ran a really good race. I think people were overly critical of it because of the margin of victory. And I think now is the time where we really kind of learn, okay, who exactly is he? Because Bullard is a great test.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of start to sort him out now. But him going at number 5 was crazy to me. I thought he would be a top 3 for sure.
Me too. And listen, here's the biggest factors for me were, well, for one, and Magic kind of said this as well, I think there that night. He's like, you look back at some of Baffert's quote unquote best, or at least who he believed would be his best. And it's not 100%, but it's, you name a horse after Jimmy Barnes in your barn, like a legend. I mean, a legend to that barn, especially, but like this horse is supposed to be really, really good. You know, the other part too is that I think is pretty interesting is Bob Baffert chose to pick this horse to bring to Churchill to run him there versus like you don't typically ever see that for a 2-year-old. Like he just stays out west and that's just what he does. Yeah, I'll ship out eventually, but where's the Derby ran? Well, it's ran at Churchill. And so I just think there's some signs there that's like, hey, they think this horse is pretty damn good.
And that's why I drafted Matticat Road, because Matticat Road was the first one scheduled to go to Churchill, but he didn't draw into the race. They had 18, there was either 16 or 18 entries, and he didn't get in. And then they sent Barnes, and he got in. So those 2 horses, Matticat Road and Barnes, save for, at the time, Citizen Bull and Gaming, those were like the next 2 that I liked the most because of that. And people are on here going, he runs horses there all the time. No, he absolutely does not debut horses at Churchill Downs, hardly ever.
No.
People are arguing with me. Dortmund did. No, he did not. So anyway, it was unique. And I thought that's something. There's something to that.
Yeah.
And then Matticat Road ends up debuting in a stakes against Bullard because that race didn't fill, or not. I'm sorry, because he didn't get into the race at Churchill. Yeah. So again, and then Gaming loses. It's like, okay, Barnes and Matticat Road are now 2-3 for me in the Baffert stable. But like you said, there may be 2-3 now, but they could pass Citizen Bull if they can keep progressing. So, yeah, they really like this horse a lot, Barnes, a lot. And there's no reason to think he's not going to run really well in this spot, and probably better than he did for his debut, that he won and beat a horse that's been pretty good. So there you go.
Well, last year he came in and did this with Muth, and obviously won the race. And let's hope he has a better, at least injury situation. But of course, Muth did go on to win a prep race before the Derby, and just never could stay healthy. But obviously, like, that was a prep for Muth, and he's done this with countless horses. And they're not always that caliber, as far as like you've seen some like Having a Meltdown won this race, or Lord Nelson won this race. The Factor won this race. So it's like they're not always like, some of them are running this race because they should run in 7 furlongs race, type races. Whereas a lot of times with Muth, especially, like, this was just a step towards whatever is moving forward, and that kind of feels that way with Barnes. So, give me Barnes, and hopefully, listen, again, I'll say it one last time. I don't think it's critical that either, if you like the 5 or the 2, that they win. I don't think it's like if they don't win, then you're screwed, or if you have a future on them, like, forget it. I do think it is important they run well, though. If the 1 wins and Barnes finishes 4th, and like, that's like a little bit concerning. So I think they just need to run well. It is a tough ask for both of these horses, considering. But give me the 2 Barnes, and Halterman, you're going there as well.
Yep.
Oh. What's the score of that game?
It's a hell of it. They're knocking the shit out of each other. It's 3-3, 5 minutes left in the second quarter.
Damn. So it's going to be you take the under, huh?
Yeah. It feels like Georgia's a little bit better, but not by much. Only reason I say that, Georgia was going in to score and fumbled down around the 10-yard line. So they've kind of threatened a couple times. Notre Dame's just really threatened the one time, and they got the field goal. But there's no like decisive advantage. But Georgia seems to be a little bit faster. Maybe is the only thing I've seen so far. But I think we're actually going to have a good game again today. So that's good.
Well, they've all been either really, really good or really, really bad. So
Yep.
But I think we've the experiment it's happened, right? It probably could use some tailoring, but it is starting to the cream is starting to rise here, I'd say.
I think the seeding was a little off how they did that. And look, like, some of these, like, almost everybody thought Tennessee and Ohio State would be a good game, and it wasn't. And then literally everybody thought Oregon, Ohio State would be a good game, and it wasn't, So what can you do? There's no seeding that can save you from that. That's just that happens sometimes.
Well, I was rooting so hard for Arizona State yesterday, just because I wanted to see, they were like, what, a 14-point dog or something like that. And even though the seeding was close, but it was like, just to have it, like, it kind of would have felt a little bit like an upset in March Madness kind of thing, So, and man, okay, so let's just get to it real quick. I gotta, you're a Texas hater, obviously, you should be, but regardless of that, I watch college football. I certainly don't watch it as much as you do. I'm more of an NFL guy, but in all the times I've ever watched football, I thought I was watching it with the boys, and we were watching the hit. I said, that guy's I said, watch this guy. They were like, oh, we were like, they kept showing the replay, like, oh my gosh, like that. And the guy's still down on the ground, everything. Like, this guy's about ready to get kicked out of the game. Watch. It's like, that's going to be a penalty, and he's going to get kicked out. That's what happens in college. I mean, I was like teaching the boys like a lesson. This is what happens in college football.
Yeah.
And they come back and they're like, no, there's no. I'm like, what? How is that not and I have, like I said, I had 0.0 skin in the game. I didn't have a bet. I didn't give a shit who really won.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is that not targeting? Isn't that the definition of it? Like, case in point?
So I was watching with my uncle, who is a Arkansas fan, who also hates Texas, like all Oklahoma fans hate Texas. And so we're rooting our ass off for Arizona State, and that happens. And that was about midfield, the targeting,
Yeah,
right?
it would have completely changed the whole game, really.
And so we're yelling, "Where's the flag?" And they come over and they say they're going to review it, and we're already talking. Okay, they're going to have it at the 35. They need to get about 10 yards to get it to where it's really makeable. I think they're going to get a shot at this. This is unreal. Like, we had already just assumed, well, that it's going to be targeting. We didn't even discuss whether it was target or not. We both looked at each other and said, well, yeah, I mean, it's a helmet to helmet hit, easy call. And then they don't call it. What did I text you? I said, it's Texas. That's why they didn't call it. They get all the calls for years. So
it just was like, yeah, I mean, it's like he led with his helmet, crown of his helmet. It was a defenseless receiver. Like all the things, right? There was everything like it was just like I did not.
It's one thing if like it's not reviewable, and you didn't catch it, and that human error happens, right?
No, yeah, exactly.
But it's like
the fact that you reviewed it,
you replayed it, like.
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, part of me was glad they didn't, because it had turned into like a hell of a finish. I mean, back and forth. But then you look back and like, damn, they probably could have won that had they got that. And I'm thinking, damn, Texas is just trying to lose this game, missing field goals, and then 2 seconds later, they first play of the second overtime, boom, and you're like, oh shit, this is Texas is, you give them too many chances, I guess, and that's what happens. But yeah, that was a good game. Didn't quite understand that, but I think a lot. Did you see? I saw today that Arizona State has filed a lawsuit, which is stupid. I get it, but a lawsuit against the playoffs, whatever the official organization is for that. But on that game, it's like, I don't know what they're gonna get out of it other than just basically being like, I'm gonna prove a point that we're pissed about this.
Yeah, I mean, people do that in sports sometimes, and nothing ever comes of it. The game is under protest. I've heard that, that kind of stuff, but it's like, no, it's not. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel for him because, I felt like they were still going to win in overtime. And like I said, they let that guy get wide open on that 4th and 13 and end up losing, but they made a great comeback. And the thing that's good about it, they kind of showed they could play with the bigger, because they were in the Big 12 and they're just the conference is not great this year, but they did show that, hey, we can match up with really good teams. So that was good for them. But yeah, you wish they would have won to pull that upset. That we just haven't had that big upset in this thing.
Yeah, now after this game, it's like there's really not an opportunity for an upset. I think that's back to like kind of the way it goes. So yeah. One last question I want to ask you about football related. I don't know if you guys touched on this at all with Dudes You Bet, but I kind of had it switching to NFL. I thought I was like, I guarantee you that Saquon Barkley is going to get the record. Like, there's no way they don't try to get he's 100 yards away.
Yeah,
they're playing the Giants. His former team who didn't want him, quote, so to speak. And so it's like, he's like, give him a half and he's going to get it in a half,
Yeah.
Are you a little surprised that they're not trying?
Shocked. Yeah. I got told that yesterday. I think, was it yesterday they broke the news? And I was like, did you read that right? Because why would, I was shocked.
Well, I had it before. I was like, 1-9 he's playing.
Yeah.
There's no way they're not. I mean, hell, they gave him like 20 some carries last week.
It kind of makes you wonder, did he have some kind of bonus if we got 2,000, and once he got over 2,000, he was like, I don't care about the record. I don't know. I was shocked. I was really shocked. I thought he would play, and I was with you. It was like, it's going to be really funny when he breaks it against the Giants, but.
And honestly, I thought that was like the final like push to do it. It's like, okay, it's whatever. Like, but it's the Giants. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
just to do it. But I guess they're just. I mean, it's a smart thing to do, obviously, but I don't know. I think for football, it would have been cool to see. I mean, it's like, shit, give them. You could say like, hey, we're gonna give you like 10 carries, or not even 10, 15 carries or something. And it's like, hey, if you get it, you get it. But we're not gonna. That's your limit. and see if you can get, or we'll give you a first half, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and say, hey, that's if you get it, we're going to make a focus to try to get it, but past that, no.
I think again, I'm shocked and I can't believe they do it, and I would do it, but I think the flip side of it is this is a team that I think can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So if something would happen,
Yep.
would they ever hear the end of it? Would they themselves let themselves sleep at night?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, this guy has been a major difference maker and will be a major difference maker in the playoffs. And if they don't have him, they're probably not winning the Super Bowl, right? But with him, they might.
Listen, there's a reason why. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like Lamar is against our best, hate has looked great this year, but there's no question of why both the Ravens and the Eagles have looked different this year, and it's because they've got Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
And like you said, like if you lose that, if you're an Eagles, Saquon, then that's a huge hit going ahead into the playoffs. So a team that's had a lot of injury issues this year, with AJ Brown missed some time, Jalen Hurts missed some time. Was it 2 weeks ago with the concussion, or maybe it was last week even? I don't remember.
I think he was out he got
hurt 2 weeks ago. Didn't play last week.
Yeah.
So I get it. You want to. This is an opportunity to get all your guys right and not risk it. But man, for the football fan and me, I was just like, yeah, it's gonna, because like Eric Dickerson, it's like that's just the record that's untouchable. We've seen, your boy AD, like, I mean, it's just like couldn't do it, and he had a hell. It's like it's just been untouched. It's one of those records that you're just like, I just don't think the way this day and age of football goes, where it's a lot of passing and even with an extended game. So I guess maybe some people would have been like, well, it doesn't count. It's different because Eric Dickerson did it in one less game or whatever, but. To me, I thought they would do it, but
I wondered if that extended game may have played a little bit of part of why they were just like, he may have just been like, you know what? No, I don't want to. I don't know. I'm just thinking of anything because I'm with you.
Yeah,
I would do it if it was me. I would be because I would want to stick it to the Giants, like you said, more than anything else.
Kevin, welcome. Yes,
Mr. Happy.
Yeah, we did talk. We're just talking. Well, right now we're just talking about why how funny it would have been if Saquon would have shit all over your NFL team.
Yeah, you got here just in time.
But apparently, they're going to take it easy on you guys. So
yeah.
But no, Haltern picked Barnes. So there you go. That's and he has a lot of positive things to say about our team actually. So
absolutely. Yes.
As he always does. But
see, what Kevin just doesn't understand is I just get in here and speak the truth. The problem is my truth is not what he wants to hear.
Doesn't line up to what his beliefs are. So
right, yeah, exactly. It's really a religious problem, I think.
Yeah. So you must be. Yeah. If you don't agree with Kevin, then you are stupid. So.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. But it is all the time we have. So. Go make sure you go check us out at racingdudes.com for those free picks and premium selections on the products page. Click the Get Race Dudes premium button in the menu at racingdudes.com to learn more. And guys, remember, the first 7 people that email me or email us at contact@racingdudes.com, I'm giving you $100. Just giving you $100. Like, we're just giving them out like hotcakes. 7 people, $700. This is episode 700. I'm giving $700 out, $100 to each person. That is to be taken off of some sort of subscription, or really anything that's over $100 on the site. So there you go. This is as a favor and to celebrate 700 episodes of Blinkers Off. We're on Twitter at @racing_dudes, Instagram and Facebook. You can find all episodes of this Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page on the site, or go to YouTube and search just Blinkers Off or Racing Dudes. You can also find us on every platform you listen to podcasts, including, of course, Apple Podcast. Make sure you go check out Dudes Who Bet Sports. You guys, we touched on some football there, but you guys really go into it, I'm guessing.
Yep. We previewed week 18 of the NFL season, which has a lot of bad games and a few really good games. And then we talked about the playoff and we talked about this game going on right now. And we kind of talked about the lack of excitement for a lot of these games so far, and then kind of what we're expecting moving forward. And I think the Final Four will be a lot of fun no matter who wins today. I think Texas, Ohio State will be great. And then the winner of this one taking on Penn State should be great as well.
Do you guys think Bengals will get in or not?
No, I think the Chiefs will let the Broncos win, so they
Yeah.
don't have to be scared of Burr. No, I'm kidding. I think the Broncos will just naturally win because,
More fame.
I think anytime the Chiefs go to Denver, it's a tough game, and then you're going to go out there without any players. I just think Denver wins, and I think eliminates the Bengals.
Yeah, there's just no there's no incentive for the Chiefs at all, you know.
No.
So, and there's all the incentive for the Broncos, but yeah, I just too much, like a hot team for sure. If the Bengals were to get in, you'd be like, oh shit, you know. But on the flip side, it's like my thoughts were at first I thought, well, yeah, I don't want to play them. I don't want them to get in. And then part of me was like, I kind of want them to get in because if they get in, they can. If we play them in the playoffs, that means they beat the Bills.
Yeah,
that means
right.
they took care of the Bills. And would you rather play the Bills or the Bengals in the playoffs for the Chiefs? As much as Burrow has handled Mahomes, or so to speak, in the past, like I would much rather play the Bengals than the Bills.
I've got good news for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
Do you remember how 5 weeks ago I was like, you were like, they looked bad last year and they did it. I was like, this just feels different. I don't know. No, I'm back on the Chiefs. I don't think it matters who they play. I think I will say this. I'm very confident they get to the Super Bowl. I do think whoever comes out of the NFC can beat them this year.
Yeah, there's some. There's some.
They're
dogs.
good.
There's some dogs over there. I mean,
Now,
whether it be the Eagles, whether it be the Lions.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to wheel the Packers in before last week. They didn't look great last week.
No.
But man, I tell you what, the Lions, and we've said it a lot on the show. They're like the Lions. If they don't make it to Super Bowl, it is a disappointment.
Yeah.
The way the season they've had, they just feel like they're destined to get in there. So
yeah, I think the Lions can beat the Chiefs. I'm not saying they will, and I'll make that decision if it happens. But I think they can. I think the Eagles can.
It's amazing. It's really scary to think. What if Rasheed would have never got hurt? What if Hollywood would have, not got hurt before the season? Or what if Pacheco wouldn't have missed 3 months or 2 months? It's like even just getting Hollywood back, it's been like, oh, they're like that's opened up. Then you got Pacheco back. Not even Pacheco, but you got the 1-2 with Pacheco and Hunt.
Yeah,
because Hunt looks great when he gets like a little less carries.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like a different team the last 2 weeks. I mean, they absolutely embarrassed the Steelers. Who? Oh, and by the way, the last 2 weeks they played playoff teams. So there's that. It's like they're embarrassing teams that are going to try to are going to be in the playoffs. So
now I will say, the Steelers are terrible.
Hey, I don't know how they've won that many games, but
I don't either.
I know that was bad.
They're terrible.
But that just goes to show you kind of the how top heavy that AFC is.
But I will also say, I feel like if they played the Steelers 6 weeks ago, it would have been like 20-19, and they would have banked a field goal in. You know what I mean? So at least they matched up against a bad team and they beat their ass, and that's what you want to see.
Well, that's what's happened the last couple of weeks where you're
Yes.
like, okay, that gives you a little bit like they've actually gone out and done what and now they're like going to have like 20 days off or something,
Right.
So that's going to help.
Oh, I think they're set up. And again, okay, first round, you're going to play, the Texans or the Chargers, maybe.
Yeah.
Come on. They're not losing that game. And then it's going to be okay. Allen or Lamar, most likely. Or maybe it's not official, but Allen or Lamar, do you have the balls to go beat them? Because you haven't in the past. So what's going to change?
Yep. I mean, that's the thing. They went into Buffalo last year. They went into Baltimore last year on their way. And this year, if they do play them, it'll be at home. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like you said, like, okay, you certainly could, but you got to go prove it. So, I've never really lost. I didn't never lose hope. But I also was getting a little worried, like, hey, something needs to change, or else I might have a heart attack. This is going to be the cardiac Chiefs all over again. And at least it gives me. Oh, by the way, it's like, hey, if we didn't do enough for you got for everything, it's like, hey, let's not vote Mahomes into the Pro Bowl. Let's just give him a little bit of extra seeing as we head into the play, because that's great. That's going to work out well for everybody. It's like, hey, by the way, you suck.
Yeah.
And Mahomes say, okay, okay.
Yeah, that's not going to help anybody. That's for sure. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks go to the Pro Bowl.
I think 6. No, 3 on each, so 6. Yeah, I think it's 3 maybe.
Yeah, he probably should be in it. I mean, his numbers really aren't.
The thing is too that a lot of the voting is, I think, taking place like earlier in the season, and so like his early in the season was awful. I guess because, I mean, his numbers were not good. This last 2 months, he's looked more Mahomes like, especially the last couple of weeks, certainly. But yeah, I do think that had an impact. But yeah, I mean, in the Josh Allen, obviously, Lamar, obviously. So there's 2. I can't remember who was. Someone help me. I don't know who was the third. It was
Burrow, Allen, and Lamar.
Burrow. Burrow. Shit. I mean, look at that. So it's like you can't. All 3 of those are your MVP candidates, and then I add Saquon. There's 4 on as far as MVPs. So yeah. I mean, I don't doubt why he didn't make it.
Yeah. Well, he's probably not going to be able to play in it anyway. Even
That's
if
what
he made it.
That's what Someone texted me that this morning, and I was like, "Well, he won't be eligible to play anyways." So
no,
don't worry. I haven't thought about the Pro Bowl in about 6 years.
No. It's we not to just keep going, but this one last thing. It's always fun talking to Ricky when all he wants to do is talk. Well, Lamar's won the MVP, and it's like you realize real quick. Whoa, they never won anything, so he's got to hang on that, right? And we all have teams like that, where it's like we may not have won it, but we got this and this, and it's like, how irrelevant should that really be to your fandom? Like, why do you care that Lamar got paid? Okay. Like, what does that do for you? Do you go tonight and go, I'll sleep good tonight? Lamar got his contract, like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
But when you're not the Chiefs and you don't win it every year, that's what all of us have to look forward to, the MVP voting.
Kevin, that's not what I want to hear, Kevin, really, from my teammate, but listen, I understand. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, it's been, and he won't want to hear this either, but it is like, I do miss, like, part of me, the Super Bowl, I've always said, I look forward to the Super Bowl like it's Christmas, like that to me, like I just love having a big party and watching football and eating and just really, having fun because I love football. And since Mahomes, I do not enjoy this time of the year. It's very very excruciating to watch the way they, especially think about the last couple of Super Bowls, the way they've had to go down, right? So the last 4 of the last 5 years, I've had to to not relax at all during the playoffs or Super Bowl. So part of me, it's especially considering we've won many at this point. You're like, okay, if we get there, great. If not, then I can relax.
Yeah. Well, 5 out of 5 really, because the Bengals you hate and you had to root against them that year. So
that's true. Yeah, and they scored like 10 points that game or something, whatever it was. No, they did. Listen, that was I did have to root really hard on that one too, just against them. So that's true. No, you're right. But it's the boys, Kevin, my little boys, like you think about them, like, and not just them, but like any person that's like, there's a lot of bandwagon fans these days, and that happens with any team that gets on a heater like they are. But where it's like, oh, this is great, this is all we know. Like, this is like, we're just it's like, dude, you have no idea. Like, I used to beg. You don't remember that, you or care to remember anyways, but I remember the year, like one of the years we were down at Oakland for, I mean, it would have been Smarty. It was a Smarty. And the Chiefs were playing I think they were playing New England or something. You know, it was like,
Yeah.
and it was like one of the Alex Smith years. You know, where they were pretty good, but
I think it was Pittsburgh, wasn't it?
I was just dying for a playoff win.
Yeah.
Like I just want, and then when they made it to the AFC Championship, and they ended up losing to New England that year, and but like I couldn't even believe we were in the AFC Champ. Like it just, it was mind blowing to me that we were in the AFC Championship, and so just to come as far as it's been, I know people listening are like, I don't give a shit, like this is, but it's just it is pretty cool, you know, and it's something that it's kind of sad to think about too, because he's like been in the league now, what, 9 years or so, and it's like it's not gonna last forever.
No,
you know, this is like just try to enjoy it as much as you can.
No, yeah, it was Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh they were playing that night. I remember it.
Golly.
Yeah, because we were with the Von Hemels and everybody was like, "Can you just score a touchdown?" Wasn't it like 12-9 or 15-12, something like that?
No, we got beat, and Pittsburgh never scored a touchdown.
Right, that's what it was. Yeah.
We got beat, and they got kickers scored like 6. I had like 6 field goals or something. You know, it was like 18-15 or 18 to. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, we went. I can't remember. I feel like we either went for it on 4th down or we went for the 2-point conversion and then like got a call against us. Like we scored it and then it got called back and then something like, you know, it's a very typical Chiefs loss back, you know, for that day and age, you know.
Yeah.
The game we were up so big against the Colts one year, and gosh, I think it was like 2013 or 14, somewhere in that. And I remember people texting me at halftime, congratulating me.
Right. Yeah.
You finally, you know, they did it. They're gonna win, and then they you know, one of the worst comebacks ever, you know. And, the game that Mariota threw a ball to himself, and he played for the Titans at that time.
Yep.
And he caught it and scored a touchdown. I mean, just crazy shit, you know, all the craziest shit that would happen, you know.
It was year after year, yeah.
And so I know people like hate to hear about it but it's like for the guys that have been the lifers, so you're like, this is so nice, because one day I'll be back to watching the Alex Smiths of Chiefs football, but
or not even Alex Smith or Drew Lock.
I told Cohen he's
Daniel Jones.
It'll be Patrick Mahomes and Cohen Welch. That's going to be the replacement.
There you go. I like it. You better.
That's the plan. So
okay.
All right, guys. That's going to wrap it up. Hope everybody has had a great start to their new year. Kevin, I hope you had a wonderful New Year's. And I wish you nothing. I wish Kevin especially nothing but happiness and
same,
and good fortunes in this year. So, and you as well, Halterman, I guess. So I guess that'll work. But anyways, I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Everybody have a great week and good luck this weekend. We will see you next time. All right, see you guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.